Okay, so the book is called. Oh, wait, you're mad. You want me to say hello first?
Yeah, I do want you to say hello.
Nah, no
I
time
don't
for
feel
that.
like it starts until you say hello.
People like educational podcasts. People don't need to hear more hellos. That's what I
Well,
think.
people like greetings too, and
Okay,
manners,
okay,
Laura.
all right, right, right. Luke, how are you?
I'm great.
What a relief. Okay, so the book is called I'm Okay, You're Okay. It is about transactional analysis. Do you know what I mean by that?
No idea. What is transactional analysis?
Okay, so it's definitely what we analyzed when we looked at the book games people play. So
Right.
it's analyzing the transactions between different people.
But you're not talking about like exchanging money.
I'm talking about exchanges, but not necessarily money. So emotional exchanges. Right.
Excellent. Okay. I'm on board.
So for example, when this podcast started and you were annoyed that we didn't say hello to each other, you would call that a version of stroking, right? So people are kind to each other, right? So you stroke someone, they stroke them back.
I just for the audience listening, I did not touch Laura.
Yeah, that's like not but like so it's a transaction, isn't it? Saying hello to someone and them saying hello back. Because if you said hello to me and then I ignored you and walked away, that would be like a slap, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be
Right?
really rude.
Whereas if you said hello and I said hello back, then it's like a mutual exchange transaction.
Okay. So it's like you want something off the other person and they give it to you.
Yes. But
Yeah.
but
But it wouldn't be like wouldn't be like physically handing something over. It'd be like
exactly.
a social exchange.
Exactly, because when a social exchange is balanced, you feel secure in it. Like, so if we work together and I just say, how's your weekend? You say, good, yours, and I say, good, and that's the end of our conversation. That's sort of end of, right? If one day you walk past me and say, how was your weekend? And I ignore you, then it would be like, all right, what's changed here? What's our problem, right? It's not the same balance. Equally, if you were like, how was your weekend? And I was like, let me tell you everything. It's not the same, right? Or if you said to me, how's your weekend? And then I went on about my weekend for 45 minutes and didn't ask you about yours. I mean, that's realistic for me.
It
But like
sounds like a
other
normal
people,
conversation.
other people, that would be annoying and offensive, right?
Yeah, with you it's thoroughly charming.
Well, I don't. My weekends are very exciting.
There's no need for me to say.
I have the
"No,
gift
I'm
of
the
storytelling. um, so
I was a natural born sounding board and nothing else.
you're a listener.
I'm a great listener. That's why you got me on this podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
You were devastated when you saw I had a microphone.
All right, we get it. Yes, I was like, you don't really need
What?
one.
Why did you buy that, Luke?
It's not that important. Yeah, okay. So that's the idea of stroking. So people sort of stroke each other in a way of a transaction. You give me this, I give you that. You don't like the use of the word stroking. I get it. A lot of people
No,
are
I
getting,
don't. It makes me feel
a lot of people are getting cancelled this year. So I see that's the wrong choice of words, but it's the word that they use in the book.
Yeah, it's also the one they use on a Twitter mob when you're in trouble for something.
Yeah. She kept saying stroking, and she was saying there were signs.
Why stroking? I don't understand why.
Because it
it's
comes
stroking.
from. I'm glad you asked. Because it comes from when you're first born, and you're
Yeah.
held by your parent.
Yeah.
That's sort of like stroking, isn't it? It's like soothing an upset baby.
Okay.
And in a way, human connection is a way of soothing the upset baby that lives in you.
I don't like the characterization of me being an upset baby for someone wanting to say hello to me. Hello. I was like, oh, you fucking child.
Well, you're being a fucking
You're so needy.
Well, you're being a fucking baby about the use of the word stroking, so I just kind of think in this scenario it does apply. Okay, so let's say that's what's happening. So there's a couple of different positions he talks about in the book. The guy called Thomas A. Harris, MD. I don't know what it.
What does MD mean?
I don't know.
Do you say it? You have to say that at the end of his name.
I think Master.
Thomas A. Harris. Murdered.
Yeah, Master Doctor. I assume is what it
Master Doctor. Lord of all doctors.
Exactly.
Master Doctor.
Because Doctor just won't do anymore because anyone can be a
No.
doctor.
Yeah.
So you've got 4 different life positions.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. So the first one is
By the way,
I'm
there's more yoga positions than there are
there's
life positions.
shut up. So the first
That
one,
seems
so
wrong.
the first one is I'm not okay, you're okay. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
The second one is I'm not okay, you're not okay. The third one
Okay.
is stop saying okay. The third one is I'm okay, you're not okay. And the fourth one is I'm okay, you're okay. And obviously I'm okay, you're okay is what you're striving for. Right?
Okay.
So okay, so the way to look at it is if you think back to games people play with Eric Berne, I don't know his name. He talks about how inside every person lives an adult, a parent, and a child.
Yes.
So your parent is set, and that's something in your mind that is made up of recordings of your parent. And those sort of statements are pretty unchangeable, right? So if you say, a messy room means a messy head, right? That's something that you have inherited from a parent saying that to you, and it feels set in your brain.
Do you mean literally things your parents have said to you
Possibly, yeah.
will be
Or messages that they've given you, or stuff that they've taught you.
as in values?
Yes. Right.
Yeah. So like my mum was like, never lie, ever.
Yes. Okay.
But if you need to lie, tell a misleading truth.
No, that's a different thing, because an adult is able to differentiate between situations, and here's where I can lie, here's where I can't. A parent is like, don't lie. If you lie, you're bad.
Okie dokie.
Right? So the parent is the kind of governing thing that is sort of hard on you and is like, this is what you need to be doing, this is how you need to behave.
So it's an authoritarian parent.
Exactly. In your mind. So it's someone that sort of governs what you do. A child is more like trying to be free and trying to play and trying to do whatever they want. Make sense?
Yeah.
So the two would come up against each other. And a lot of people's struggles with mental health are a sort of fight for control over the parent and the child. So the child is like, I want to do this. And then the adult is like, you shouldn't have done that.
So as a child, sort of your, I guess, like your more base instincts and impulses and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And your parent is the really authoritarian, controlling thing that is sort of trying to regulate that.
Yes. And you have a belief and you're just like, I don't know where that came from.
Yeah.
So it's sort of something that's embedded in you that you haven't questioned.
Okay, and they're saying that comes literally from your parents. And
yes, 100%.
Ends up becoming then a mental thing in your head.
A script in your mind that you will sort of play out. If you have a parent that says something like, all men are horrible, then that might be embedded in you. Because an adult would be like, well, maybe not all men, but a parent would just be like, that's set. Right?
Okay.
And the interesting thing, so if you think about a child who is sort of can be inquisitive and can kind of ask questions about different things, it is safer for a child to believe what their caregiver says, even if it's a lie to their reality. The other key thing about a child is, for a little child, if you think about a parent that's huge and towering over them, it might be safer to believe a lie that's come from the parent than to believe your own eyes and ears.
But that's talking about an actual child.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, not the child in the brain.
Yeah.
But I guess in some ways you want certainty.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking because sometimes you have those people who do just want you to solve stuff for them.
Yeah.
And I was like, would you say that person is in a sort of child relationship? And
yes,
child mode.
If the conversation we have, if I come to you and I say, this is what's happening in a scenario, if I come to you and say, this has happened to me, what do I do? Then that's a child being like, can you solve this for me?
Yeah.
So let's say when you get born, you're in a...
Wait, what's the name of the first one?
The first one is called I'm Not Okay, You're Okay.
So you're not okay, but I'm okay.
This is gonna get so confusing if we so okay, so do you want to be the baby?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're a baby
Yeah.
And your position, your life position is I'm not okay, you're okay. Okay?
Right.
So the way that this kind of script would come about is when you're first born, you get pulled out of your mum and you're separated from your mum. Yes, and after being in the warmth of your mum all of this time, you are okay, and all of a sudden the harsh world surrounds you and you're just going, I'm not okay. Where's my mum? She's okay.
Yeah.
So you're in this position of being like, I'm not okay, you're okay. So you need to get back to the person that is okay. That's where the idea of stroking comes in, right? Baby starts crying, you give it to the parent, they calm down, in theory.
Yeah.
I don't know, right? So it's the idea that contact with their okay parent or adult calms them down.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? And your kind of desperation and anxiety to be okay would be linked to wanting to be near that adult.
Right.
Okay. So that's how everyone sort of starts. And then there's a couple of different options that people can move on to at a really young age. So we're still talking really like before the age of 3. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So then you got a couple of options. And the first one is I'm not okay and you're not okay.
Oh, shit. That sounds really bad.
Right. If a baby is born and then the parent is sort of not close to them or not taking care of them, then they would feel a kind of element of despair, wouldn't they? I wanted to get close to this adult, but they're not calming me.
Right. Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So if there's something hopeful in, if you're like, I'm not okay, but you're okay, then you can try and get near someone that is okay.
Yeah, I don't understand how this interacts with the real world in
So
terms of
what happened? Yeah. So what the idea is that once you develop into one of these other two positions,
yeah,
right, then what happens is you develop a life script which repeats itself over and over again. So, for example, if my idea was that I'm not okay and you're okay, then I would be thinking, I will be okay if and when.
if and when what?
So that person is likely to go for stuff in order to feel better.
As in seeking other people, or
Or other people, other things, whatever it is. So it's like these life scripts play out. So, you know, if you've got a thing where you think, I will be better when I get this, if I get this, when I reach this milestone.
yeah,
So that's the life position of like, I'm not okay, you're okay. I want to be like other people. I want to feel okay like other people. So I'm going to climb a mountain in order to feel okay.
okay, so yeah, all right,
Except that if your life position was that, then you would spend a lot of time going for things that you thought would make you feel okay. And with each one, either you would think the next mountain was the next thing that would make you okay. Because if the script is I'm not okay, then it doesn't matter how many things I go for. That emptiness is still going to be there. So if I was like, I'll be okay if I'm rich. Suddenly I'm rich. Oh, now I'll be okay if I'm whatever.
So you sort of end up in a repetitive cycle of existential stress.
Exactly. But maybe not existential to you if you think that the next thing that you get is going to be the thing that makes you feel okay.
Right, yeah. But every time you attain it, you'll be dissatisfied and then quickly scramble to the next thing.
Yes, exactly.
Because you think that will end that.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Horrible
And
feeling
they talk about 3 different reasons that people decide to seek change, and one of them is that they're bored of the repetition. Right? So if you decided I will be better when I'm successful,
yeah,
then only at a certain point would you start to be like, I keep getting these things and I still feel not okay. Because if that's the kind of life script, then every transaction you go through will still leave you feeling not okay.
So what causes someone to fall into that script?
So for the one that says I'm not okay and you're okay, is fairly normal because it would be a parent that is comforting their child.
Do these 4 positions you can switch between?
No. They kind of
So
say people are typically people are born in position 1.
Yeah.
Then they, in their really early childhood, they either go into 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And the idea is that when you're an adult, that
An
you
actual
progress.
literal adult.
No, when you're like operating in an adult brain,
Okay.
then you get to position 4, which is I'm
Which is
okay and
I'm
you're
okay.
okay.
You're okay.
Yes.
Great.
Make sense?
Yes, but you can
Yes.
also be. You can be an actual adult, so someone who is older,
Yes.
and be in one of the lower down positions.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
So you could have this constant feeling throughout life of I'm not okay, you're okay.
Yeah, okay. What I wanted you to take me through was what if the parent is. So, what if it's I'm okay, but you're not okay? How does
Right.
that behavior act out?
So this can come from, they talked about this a bit, and what they said was this can come from if the actual literal caregiver or parent is cruel to the child. So if they're not, so let's say if you were a baby and you were being hit by a parent, then you would not be okay. You would get a sense for, I'm fine when I'm on my own, but I'm not okay when you're near me, right? So it would be like when this monster comes to me, I'm unsafe. And this one, they said, is typical of people that commit murder or crime or whatever. Not all crime, sorry, that's so general. Wow. But you would feel justified in that. Okay.
Right. So I guess that would fit with that sort of common attitude that's like, oh, bad childhood creates a bad person in the future.
But yeah, because
that sort of stereotype, right?
Yes, because if when you were left alone, you were safe, but when your parent came over to you, you were unsafe, the message you would have embedded in you was I'm okay and you're not okay. And then that would transfer onto different people throughout life. So,
and what sort of behaviors would be typical besides
murdering people?
I guess. But what's it on like a lower scale?
Then I guess it would be stuff like if it's I'm okay and you're not okay, then you're justified to hurt people, aren't you?
I don't know. Why?
Because you would want to get away from people. If you were like, I'm okay when I'm on my own, I'm not okay when someone else is near me because they're a threat for whatever reason, then I would want to be away from people constantly.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Whereas the opposite of that, of I'm not okay, you're okay, might be a really people-pleasing person. I want to be incredibly kind to people because I feel like I'm not good enough to be around them. So by being kind to them, because they're a better person than me, I will feel better.
You sort of overcompensate for your I don't know, perceived deficiency.
Exactly. Right. So both of those positions, in a way, are kind of unhealthy.
Yeah.
So
I think murder is unhealthy, probably.
Yeah, both of them are unhealthy. Murder, not ideal. But you know what? Good for us for not having a podcast that's all about murder.
Yeah.
So what if? Oh my God! What if someone started murdering podcasters that do podcasts about true crime?
Mate, that would be a great series.
Yeah, because then it'd be like you're trying to solve it before the true crime podcasts get wiped out, and then it would
Netflix would be all over that.
Super meta. Anyway.
Well, there you go. You just inspired a series of serial killers. Well done.
Yeah. My bad. Something to think about, though. You know.
Yeah.
But then it's kind of an issue because if you kind of were like all these podcasts are being made about my killing sprees, and if I kill them off, it's like how celebrities kind of need the media. I don't know. I've gotten so sidetracked, and I'm not okay with it. Right. So what they're talking about. So there's 3 reasons that people...
Wait. There's one thing you haven't gone through. What about the I'm not okay, you're not okay situation?
I'm not okay, you're not okay. So that's if a parent, let's say a parent isn't very caring to the child after they're born. Yeah. So I'm crying and I never get comforted.
Yeah.
which is just like, I'm not okay and you're not okay either.
So it's neglect is
Yeah. And
that one.
you might get, if you never get sort of, as a young child, if you never get sort of made a fuss of in terms of like, this is, this is an exciting achievement and this is a terrible punishment,
Yeah.
then there's no up and down, and it's just a sort of all one line.
Right. And what is the side effects of that?
I mean, you'd be incredibly drab, wouldn't you? No excitement
Sure.
no excitement, no excitement would feel like a huge gain, would it?
What a
It wouldn't
drab
be.
child.
It wouldn't be like, oh, I've achieved this great thing. It would just be like, okay. Does that make sense?
What sort of behaviors would they have?
If
Sort of depressive tendencies?
no,
or
none.
None.
Yeah, yeah, it would be depressive, and it would be a sense of kind of there's no just drifting through life.
So no, yeah. So I suppose
Because
you wouldn't have any
if
goal
I
aspirations.
if I feel I'm okay, I'm not okay, but you're okay, then by trying to get near you, there'd be some excitement for me because I would think that this was going to be the thing that helped me or made me
Yeah.
better, right? But if I was like, I'm not okay and you're not okay, then there's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? If I'm not okay, you're okay, then I might be super excited to go for things, but then might be sort of deflated if I either don't get them or if I get them and I'm still not any better.
Yeah.
Right?
But what if could neglect not also like fuel wanting excessive attention?
If I guess if we're talking about a baby, aren't we? So
What?
we're talking about if we're talking about neglect and you're saying if I was neglected I'd want excessive attention, right?
Yeah.
But if
maybe,
you're a baby crying in the crib, you're not going to be like, I'm committing the next 2 years to screaming until I get the attention.
Right. Okay.
So we're saying neglect is I tried to get attention, I couldn't get
Yeah.
it, and then I resigned to the fact that I wouldn't get it. We're talking about
Okay.
the first
they're
3 years of life.
Right. Okay. So these four states are dictated by that early 3 years.
Yes.
Is that what it's arguing?
Yeah.
Okay. And then those methods of interacting with the world are imprinted on you in those first 3 years.
So then you have these scripts that sort of play out over and over again.
Yeah. Which
Yes.
is how you process your relationships. Yeah, that makes sense, I guess.
Phew. I guess you're in this position now where you've got this life script. People have these scripts and they sort of like replay them and replay them and replay them, right? And if you think, I'm not okay, you're okay, then every time you get close to someone, you think, that's going to solve my problems. And then you just go, no, it didn't at all. Must be them. Let me try and find someone different. Yeah. I'm still not okay. Oh, this person seems okay. Now I'm going to throw myself at them. No, still not. Someone new, right?
Yeah,
so there's
yeah.
3 things that make people want to change. And number 1 is they get bored of the repetition, which is what I'm just talking about there. Yes?
Yeah.
Number 2 is they get hurt sufficiently, or they hurt sufficiently, whatever. Right? So if my pattern was doing that, and then I was like, I've done something to someone I care about, and that doesn't make sense.
I've had my fill.
Right?
I've been a dickhead long enough.
Right, so
I'm over it now.
So there's you're bored of the repetition, or you've gotten hurt sufficiently of like, this can't be working for me. Right?
Yeah, okay.
So those are the 2 things that make people change. And the third one I love is the sudden... That's my dog.
Oh, jeez.
Okay. And he's mad. And the third one is that people suddenly discover that they can change.
Ooh.
Right.
How do they do that?
I guess by reading this book. Or by seeking help. This book is a lot about therapy and the different methods of it.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the idea that you could change that opens people up to be like, I would like to change.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
What if you change for the worse?
Well, you wouldn't. You would.
What if you
You
go through
wouldn't.
therapy and then
Yep.
you come out
Well, here's
and no
what's
one can stand you after that?
well, here's what's
Oh no!
Here's what's interesting. Here's what's really interesting about that is they talked about transactional analysis and the transactions that people go through. And they said sometimes if a marriage is in trouble and one person starts to seek help, then they start to develop and change, then actually it might not serve the dynamic they're in anymore.
Yeah.
So they said
Okay.
they said what's really helpful is to get couples in therapy together so that they're shifting and changing. It's not get them to go separately. So it's like, well, my therapist said this, or like, I can't decide if I've done this. Does that make sense? The other thing they said that was really problematic is people's views on therapy and transactional analysis. So if some people were just like, no, that's just like an upper class thing that, you know, people who have time to talk about their feelings do, then that negates them ever seeking help.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Right. So then there's another thing that they talked about that came into play, which is, so, and this is the example they use. They use an example of a little girl that gets given a book about penguins by her grandma. And then she's like, thanks so much, Nan. I now know more about penguins than I ever cared to know. And I know, but the message there is,
sassy child.
The message there is that there is no, what's the gain of being like, oh, my parent was not holding me often enough, and now I'm trying to people please everyone, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Well, you wouldn't even be aware of that, right?
No. But the idea is like, what's the point of doing all of this? If you believe that your biography determines your biology, does that make sense? So your story determines how you're going to act in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you might find your story to be so hindering of where you are and how you think that it would just be like, well, I didn't want to know all of this, right? It's like opening up a wound and you're just like, I had everything sealed in place.
Yeah.
Make sense?
It's like when you make a breakthrough in therapy and you're like, ha, you're just a goddamn stereotype like everyone else.
Not how you should be speaking to a therapist.
I know, but that's how I feel about therapy and psychology in general. You're always like, I'm my own individual person. And then they're like, okay, well, did you do that because of all this stuff that happened in your childhood? And you're like, no.
Yeah, it's because I'm interesting and different. Right. And this is the other thing that they talked about. They said blaming your faults on nature can be problematic if you use it as a license to not change. So if it's like, I'm this way because this, and this, then you're set, you're stuck. And he said the problem with people seeking diagnoses like saying, oh, what am I? Am I OCD or am I bipolar or am I whatever? He said the problem with that is then people feel set in something. Whereas actually when you're going, these are the transactions that I'm having, and actually this child is in control of me some of the time and a parent is in control the rest of the time, is like, that explains a kind of spike in like, I felt like I could do anything and I was free. And then, you know, for a week afterwards, I felt so low and so ashamed. It'd be the flipping of gears rather than the actual like, oh, it's a chemical imbalance. No, I don't know the chemical side of it. But
it's sort of a diagnosis can sometimes create like a degree of permanence.
Yes. Yeah. I'm a dick because my mum was mean to me. Yeah. It's just like, it's her fault, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's one of the complicated things about treating mental health is you've got because you have the diagnosis and people can diagnose certain behaviors or certain typical things, but then your attitude towards that illness is part of you managing it. So you have to still take responsibility for the mental health condition.
Right.
Could you end up getting with group therapy? Well, I suppose, you've got the therapist sort of protect you, don't you? But I was wondering, could you end up getting sort of negative, dysfunctional, codependent relationships where someone goes, someone is constantly occupying a childlike position and the other person is being the parent, both of which the positions are dysfunctional, and then you've got a really bad dynamic on your hand.
That's the point, is to let those things play out and just watch someone switch from going like, oh, help me, I've got this problem this week, to, no, you shouldn't do that, you should do this.
Okay.
So a lot of what, if a therapist is leaving a patient in silence and asking them to answer a question, it's like they're trying to activate the adult in them when someone may come in as a parent wanting to be like, this, and this. This is, everything is set. I can't change anything. Or they may want to come in as a child being like, this happened. What should I do? Whereas an adult is just going, I have the answers. I make the decisions. If it's the wrong decision, I make a new decision. Or it isn't the wrong decision because I looked at everything I know about and now I've made a decision based on my ever-changing morals and nature. I mean,
my ever-changing
loose
morals.
My ever-changing morals. No, I mean,
my slutty morals.
What I meant was, I meant morals. I mean, ever-changing morals.
I am right yet again.
I mean, you haven't. You might not. Your morals aren't set as if your parents had given them to you. They can.
What a case of moral relativism.
Change.
It's all anarchy.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. That's the brief version of what I found to be a harrowing and mind-bending book. Yeah, that's it.
Did you find it confusing, the adult-child parent reading about that?
No, which makes me question how good I am at explaining things. Yeah.